Hello and welcome to today's video in which we'll be preparing for and evaluating the challenges of growth. This is the last video in this group of videos for entrepreneurship and e-commerce, and I guess we've looked at everything from taking that little idea, seed of an idea, and developing it all the way through in a business plan, looking at our industry analysis and value chains and market analysis and looking at all aspects of that and developing our mobile applications as we have been doing. And now we have been so successful in doing all that that we're going to grow because we're just doing too well. So this video really is, I guess, an introduction to how we might grow as a business and what are the things that you should consider in terms of, the business growing. And a caveat for that, I suppose, for me is businesses don't always have to grow. There's obviously plenty of hugely successful, long-term successful businesses out there that have just been happy to maintain their status quo or maintain their position. But however, growth is always something that we should be at least considering and looking at in terms of entrepreneurialism. So we're going to look at preparing for growth, reasons for growth, managing. We'll go through these five. Pretty straightforward and kind of common sense, but again, just a little bit of an introduction. And so three things that a business can do to prepare for growth. And the first of those is appreciate the nature of business growth and understand it. I think we said not all businesses have the potential to be an aggressive growth company, and that's just the reality of it. Some businesses just it's not there or readily available, or in the nature of the business model, or suitable to the target market, or some fundamental issue within the company just means that it's not the potential is not there for growth, and we should be aware of that or identify that. A big one which often happens is a business can grow too fast, and you just need to Google companies that grew too fast, for there's so many examples, and what happened. Zynga, I think, was a big gaming company in 2015 that sort of grew too fast and actually ended up lacking in innovation. And sometimes growing too fast, I remember, oh gosh, I can't remember the entrepreneur, but I read the book, and it'll come to me. Sorry, but he in hindsight, he was retired, and he was asked, what was his biggest mistake, and he said growing too fast, because it really made life difficult for him growing too fast, in that it gave his competitors a chance to pick away at him, whereas if he had stayed developing his product and getting it more right and working on getting exactly what the customer wants before introducing his product to competitors, and growing too fast, it's just something to be wary of, that it can happen. And business success doesn't always scale, and what we mean by that is, just because, and I like to use my vision of a nice Arabic restaurant or Middle Eastern restaurant in Ireland. Someday is a good example, but just because it is profitable in one area doesn't necessarily mean it'll be profitable if I open up 10 of them, scale up, if you like, or start producing the same product but on a bigger scale, more of them. The other thing that we should understand is, I guess, always stay committed to your core strategy, which we've talked about in the business model section of these videos. We should stick to our core strategy and just watch we don't deviate from it. It is important that a business doesn't lose sight of it. If a business becomes distracted or starts pursuing every opportunity for growth that's presented, it can easily stray away from areas where it's at a disadvantage. And again, you know, I suppose you can say taking your eye off the ball is an analogy, or you know, when you start looking at growth, sometimes it's very possible that the quality or of the product and service that you're delivering either diminishes or doesn't maintain the constant good quality that you've been providing with. And just the final thing in a business can do to prepare for growth is plan for growth. And you know, you should establish a somewhat of a growth related plan, considering the previous two slides and the things that we've discussed in the previous two slides. Sorry. Writing a business plan greatly assists in this preparation, and it's also important for a company to determine as soon as possible what its growth strategy will be, and there are different strategies for growth. I won't go through all of these, but here are just 10 warning signs that a business is growing too fast, and you can look at these, pause the video, or go through them in more detail, but they kind of speak for themselves. So, you know, for example, and I've seen this actually with clients of my own that I was serving. That you know, I seen actually restaurants that I was providing digital marketing for, and they had a very successful restaurant in one location and then wanted to open up in another location, and you could see the product was declining that they were delivering because their head chef was stretched between two restaurants. But obviously you can see it through many of these things, and just to keep an eye on it yourself. Reasons for growth. So now that we're aware of the certain things of growth, the reasons that for growth, and if we see any of these applicable to our own business, or as we're all developing mobile applications in this class, can we see any of these being a reason for growth? And the first we say is economy of scales, and this is or occurs when I guess when increasing production lowers the average cost of each unit produced. Now, I think a nice example to explain this that helped me way back when was, and it should be suitable for you because you all understand the printing industry, of course, or web media design and printing, is if I get a poster designed, or a brochure, say, for example, well, it might cost me, say, 50 BD for 500 brochures. Well, to get 1,000 brochures might be only 60 BD. So how does that happen? Well, that it would only be 10 BD or 10 pounds or 10 euros or $10 more expensive to get double the amount printed. Well, we know in printing that often the majority of the cost goes into creating the template, and then the actual running off the posters and the usage of paper is quite an inexpensive part. So we can say that the economies of scale there are, so when we produce more, the cost is lowered somewhat. So when increasing production lowers the average cost of each unit produced. And that's an example of the economies of scale. And that happens in a lot of industries. Economies of scope, on the other hand, occur when the scope or range of a company's operation creates efficiencies. And again, a nice example that I liked in this was, from a food example, was if I was a local shawarma shop, and you know, we have those where we have the meat and the spike in the middle and they go around a rotisserie. Well, I could pretty much start selling doner kebabs as well. So I could sell two products. So I can increase the scope of my product. So I'm not just selling shawarmas, but because the same products are used for producing doner kebabs as they are for shawarmas, well, I may as well offer the two same products, even though or I could, sorry, I wouldn't say I may as well. I could, if I wanted to grow, I could decide, well, how would I grow my little shawarma shop? Well, I could sell doner kebabs as well as shawarmas, and then perhaps I will get more customers, which would, of course, hopefully help growth. When you Google economies of scope, which I did do, just looking for examples, even though I had my own example, but I wanted to see what came up. Not, but they used the example of shoe manufacturers, where a company might manufacture men and women's shoes. Well, they've got all the skills and equipment to make shoes, so they could increase their product scope by making children's shoes, and that's another example of economies of scope. So that would be another reason for growth. So market leadership occurs when a company holds the number one position or number two position in an industry or niche market, and maybe it is time to try and grow and expand at that stage. And what we're doing here is we're trying to identify the reasons for growth. And another reason for growth is influence, power, and survivability. And you see this often in the cutthroat world, but larger businesses usually have more influence and power than smaller companies. And this is true. Even if I think of the restaurant industry, or you tend to have more power over your suppliers, and you can demand more off your suppliers than you would, for say, off the smaller companies or smaller restaurants. And the same applies for most industries. And you go back to your Porter's 5 forces in the power of suppliers. That's all our reasons for. Oh no, sorry, there. Accommodate the growth of key customers. So sometimes companies are compelled to grow to accommodate the growth of key customers. So if we're supplying our product to a company that uses our product to produce their product, well, if they want to grow, then it may well just suit us to grow as well. So maybe if we're a supplier of a product to a company that needs our product to grow, and they want to grow, then it might suit us to grow. Attract and retain talented employees, and that, of course, as if the company grows, then the possibility and likelihood of internal promotions increase. And most employees are driven to succeed, or some employers are driven to succeed. And as a management, we want to be able to facilitate and look after our employees. And if we have a small business and all the key positions are filled, and we have an excellent chef in our restaurant, say, for example, but there are no more head chef positions for him, then we may lose him to another restaurant. And that's, of course, just an analogy from the restaurant industry. Managing growth. So it is important for a business owner to know the stages of growth, and we're going to look at these 5 stages now. Again, just go through them quickly. They're pretty straightforward. Introduction, early growth, continuous growth, maturity, and decline. And we'll look at each one of these and things that maybe we should just be aware of. So the introduction stage is usually the startup phase, and where we're at the minute with our ideas, I guess, are what we call the startup phase, where a business determines what its core strengths and capabilities are. So we're still working on that, even though we think we know what our strengths and capabilities are. The early stage, usually that's an ongoing and development process, and the main challenge is to make sure the initial product or service is right. And if we go back to our what do great entrepreneurs do? Well, they have great product focus and customer focus, and ensure the product is exactly what the customer wants and getting that fit right. It's important to document what works and what doesn't work in this stage. So yeah, the introduction stage is key for growth. Early growth, generally, this is characterized by increasing sales and heightened complexity. So your sales should be improving. This is a sign of growth. But with that growing sales comes growing complexity. And 2 important things must happen for a business to be successful at this stage. The founder must start working on the business rather than in the business. And Just to give you an idea of what that means is, again, if I look at, say, for example, I set up a Middle Eastern restaurant in Ireland and it's going really successful, and I'm sort of pretty much one of the main chefs in there because I love Middle Eastern food and I love cooking Middle Eastern food, and the business is going really well, and I'm thinking, oh, I really want to grow my business here. Well, I can't be in the business. I have to either train a very good head chef to replicate what I'm doing, and then focus on the business itself. So I have to forget about the cooking and focus on all aspects of the business and all aspects of the company. So that's just important in the growth stage, early growth stage. And increased formalization must take place, and that business has to start developing policies and procedures. And again, if we think of using the example of the restaurant there, I've taken myself out of the kitchen to focus on running the business more successfully, even though I love cooking. I've decided, look, to have to see an overall picture and look at all aspects here. Well, formalization might be things like, okay, well, I have to train other chefs. Well, I might decide to create a manual that shows exactly how each dish is going to be prepared. So we call them plate specs in the restaurant industry. So I might prepare that there. That's something that I can then pass to that chef. And if I decide to open up another restaurant in future time, we have that plate spec to show them as well. And that is often why when you go to McDonald's, they have the exact same meals. Anyway, increased formalization, and developing policies and procedures. So we start by, I might start creating an opening up procedure. These are all the things that have to be done in the kitchen. These are all the things that have to be done out in the restaurant. These are all the things that have to be done in the bar. These are all the things that have to be done in back of house, things like that there. Continuous growth, this phase here, is the need for structure and formalization increases. So we find that those policies and plans, we have to keep creating more so everybody within the business understands what's going on. Often the business will start developing related products and services. So, maybe if I've opened up a Middle Eastern restaurant, I might start developing shawarmas or some other type of Middle Eastern product or service to offer. And some of the toughest decisions take place at this stage of growth. One tough decision is whether the owner of the business and the current management team have the experience and the ability to take the business further. And, that's really true. I guess you have to sort of, can we keep growing this business, and, do we need help, or where are we at? So I guess a bit of reflection has to be made here. Maturity is where the business enters, I guess, this leveling off phase, and it's where the growth stalls. At that point, a company is typically more intently focused on managing efficiently rather than developing new products. So, it's just focusing on doing the things that it offers well, and is there any ways of even decreasing costs in the value chain or things like that there, as opposed to looking at research and development and innovation. Well-managed companies often look for partnering opportunities or opportunities of acquisition, buyouts, or licensing deals to breathe new life into the company. If new growth cannot be achieved through a company's existing product mix, the next generation of products should be developed. So, if we've reached that level of maturity and we want to keep growing, well, we have to really look at what's the future. We came up with a very good idea, and that good idea has become a successful business, and now it's matured, and it's the profits have stalled. They're fine, but we're not, we really are out of the stage of growth. Well, what do we do? Do we start looking at disruption? Do we start looking at trends? Do we start looking at new innovations in the industry that we're working on, how we can continue to grow again? And of course, the last stage is decline, and decline can be slow, it can be long, and it is not inevitable that a business enters the decline stage. So, there are many businesses that have long histories of providing products and services and tweaking and improving and those products and services. A business's ability to avoid decline hinges or depends on its strength of its leadership. And adaptability is also important, being able to adapt to changes. So challenges of growth, two challenges for growth: managerial capacity and day-to-day challenges for growing a company. And we'll just look at these. These are the last two things we're going to look at today. For managerial capacity problem, we're going to explain that, and of course the same, then look at day-to-day challenges. So what is managerial capacity problems? Well, companies are collections of productive resources that are organized in an administrative framework, and that sounds blah, but but they are. So companies they're a collection of productive resources that are organized in an administrative framework. So we're just thinking from an administrative model or plan. So this business plan is working because it works within a business model, and we remember our business model from before. And as a company goes about its routine activities, it reorganizes opportunities to grow. So even within the value chain, we look at opportunities to grow. The problem with this scenario is that companies are not always prepared or able to grow because of a limited managerial capacity. And I'm not sure we've actually explained limited managerial capacity yet. Rather, we've just said that, within the company there are models and templates of how to work. So let's look at this. The company's administrative framework consists of two kinds of services that are important to a company growth. Entrepreneurial services generate new market, new products and service ideas, while managerial service administer the routine functions of the company. So you can say that the entrepreneurial services within the company provide new markets, products and innovation, while the managerial services carry out the routine functions of the business model that help the business function on a day-to-day basis. New products and service ideas require substantial managerial services or managerial capacity to be successful. This is a complex problem because if a company has insufficient managerial services to properly implement its new product and service, it can't grow. So I think that's a bit complicated. So basically, to try and simplify that, we're saying that, if I have a restaurant and while I'm the owner of it and we've grown a successful business model, and within that model we have managers, a head chef and head waitresses and waiters and head bar staff and different things like that there, and I'm developing some new innovative product or service within the restaurant to work on growth, and that might be maybe creating a number of shawarma shops around the company, but I'm trying to innovate them. Well, I have only a limited amount of managerial expertise to run my current business, and if I take them out of that business to help me develop the new business, well then I lose my current business's proper functioning, I guess. So it's a complex problem because if a company has insufficient managerial services to implement its new product and service ideas, it can't grow. So it's kind of a bit of the chicken and the egg. If I don't have the staff, then how can I grow the company? And I suppose we might say get new staff is the answer. So from the previous slide, the reason companies can't quickly increase its managerial services to take advantage of new products or service ideas is that it is expensive to hire new employees. It takes time for new hires to be socialized into the culture of the company, and it takes time for new employees to acquire company-specific skills and establish trusting relationships. So really, if I take someone out of my company to help develop the growth of the company, I have to replace that someone, and that's not easily done with the same capability that we will be leaving behind. When a company's managerial resources are insufficient to take the advantage of its new products and service opportunities, this subsequent problem is referred to as managerial capacity problems. So I think I got there and explaining it. Took us 3 slides, a little bit long-winded. And then additional challenges. As a company grows, it is faced with the dual challenge of adverse selection and moral hazard. And adverse selection, means that as the number of employees a company needs increases, it becomes increasingly difficult for the company to find the right employees. places them in an appropriate position, and provide adequate supervision. And moral hazard means that a company grows and adds personnel, and these new hires typically do not have the same ownership incentive, and that's quite common. The first group of people that you employ are usually very committed, and they're rewarded because they're the new employees. And those that tend to follow maybe don't get the same incentives or buy into the same culture of the company. The last two slides are the day-to-day challenges of growing a company, so just to be aware of these. Cash flow management. A company requires an increasing amount of cash as it grows. So as the company grows, well, it's likely the costs are going to grow, and be wary of this, as you may not get the initial profits that you want straight away. Price stability. If growth comes at the expense of competitors, market share, price war could ensue. And this is just to be aware of, again, from industry analysis, looking to see are there many competitors, and the likelihood of me growing this business will that decrease the price, which of course would be a problem. Quality control, as we said, I think at the very start, an increase in company activity can result in quality control issues. And I've seen that where the resources weren't managed well and the quality of the product decreased greatly. And capital constraints refers to, access to capital to help the company grow, or, if we think of capital as maybe a 3D printer and we want to grow, but the current 3D printer would not be capable of producing the level or amount of products that we want for the company to grow. I think that takes us to the end, and it does. Again, this was, as we say, just an introduction into preparing for growth, reasons for growth, managing growth, stages of growth, and growth problems. So, we just wanted to introduce you to those terms, give you a good brief understanding. We will discuss this more in our classes, of course, and for our assessment. And if you are not a part of these classes, well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that it just give you a sort of a good introduction to what an entrepreneur and new business should consider when thinking about growth. So, hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much, and talk soon.